XRP just smashed through the $3 barrier, and here's what nobody's talking about. 94% of all XRP holders are now sitting in pure profit. That's not a typo. Nearly every single person who bought XRP before this moment is making money right now. But here's what's really wild. Technical analysts are pointing to $4.80 as the next major target. That's a potential 60% surge from current levels. So the question isn't whether XRP can go higher, it's whether you understand what's actually driving this momentum and if you're positioned for what comes next. What's up, everyone? If you've been following the crypto markets lately, you know we're in one of those moments where everything seems to be moving fast. Bitcoin's grinding higher, altcoins are showing signs of life, and then there's XRP, absolutely obliterating resistance levels like they're made of paper. Let me paint the picture for you. XRP didn't just casually drift past $3, this was a surgical strike through a level that's been acting as resistance for months. And the broader crypto market? It's providing the perfect backdrop for moves like this. But here's where it gets interesting. And this is something most people completely miss when they're analyzing price action. It's not just about the price going up, it's about who is holding, how they're positioned, and what the underlying data is telling us about the strength of this move. See, when a cryptocurrency surges, you can have two scenarios. Scenario 1, it's driven by speculation, FOMO, and weak hands jumping in late. These moves typically reverse fast and leave people holding bags. Scenario 2, it's backed by genuine accumulation, strong holder behavior, and technical levels that actually matter. The question is, which scenario are we dealing with XRP right now? Here's where things get absolutely fascinating, and I want you to really think about this number I'm about to share with you. 94% of all XRP in circulation is currently in profit. Let me say that again, 94%. Now if you're new to crypto, you might think, okay, cool, people are making money. But if you understand market psychology and on-chain analytics, your brain should be lighting up right now because this metric tells us something incredibly powerful about what's happening beneath the surface. Think about what this actually means. For 94% of supply to be in profit, that means the vast majority of people bought their XRP below $3. These aren't recent buyers. These aren't people who jumped in last week. These are holders who accumulated during the bear market, during the legal uncertainty, during the times when everyone was calling XRP dead. But here's where your analytical mind should start asking questions. When such a massive portion of supply is in profit, what typically happens next? In traditional markets, high profit percentages often lead to profit taking. People see green numbers and decide to cash out. But crypto markets, especially with assets like XRP that have strong utility narratives, don't always follow traditional patterns. So which direction does this tip? Do we see massive sell pressure from profit takers, or do we see continued accumulation from investors who believe the legal clarity and utility story is just getting started? The answer lies in the technical levels. And this is where most people get it completely wrong. XRP isn't just floating around randomly at these prices. It's holding strong above $2.47, and that level is absolutely critical. This isn't some arbitrary support line drawn by a trader with crayons. This represents a major resistance level that got flipped to support. And the fact that XRP is maintaining this level tells us the buyers are still in control. But here's what's really got my attention. And this is where the $4.80 target comes into play. When you look at the Fibonacci extensions from XRP's previous major moves, when you analyze the volume patterns, when you study how XRP has historically behaved after breaking through major resistance levels, the confluence points to $4.80. That's not just some random price target. That represents a 60% move from current levels, and it's based on technical analysis that's actually grounded in XRP's historical price behavior. But can it actually get there? And more importantly, what could potentially derail this entire setup? Now, here's the part of the story that most people aren't fully grasping, and it's arguably the biggest catalyst behind XRP's recent performance. The legal battle with the SEC, the one that's been hanging over XRP like a dark cloud for years, is finally reaching its conclusion. And I'm not talking about some vague settlement that leaves questions unanswered. We're talking about a complete resolution. Former federal prosecutor James K. Filan just shared documentation showing that both the SEC and Ripple have filed joint motions to dismiss their appeals. Stuart Alderoty, Ripple's chief legal officer, confirmed that the court has recognized these joint dismissals. Translation: this legal nightmare that's been suppressing XRP's price for years is finally over. But here's what I find fascinating about market psychology, and tell me if you've noticed this too in the comments below. The market often moves before the news becomes official. Smart money doesn't wait for press releases and official announcements. They position themselves when they can see the writing on the wall. So the question becomes, is XRP's recent surge to $3 just the beginning of a repricing event now that legal clarity has been achieved? Think about it logically. For years, institutional investors, banks, and payment processors had to treat XRP with caution because of regulatory uncertainty. Major exchanges delisted it, partnerships were put on hold, the entire ecosystem was operating under a cloud of uncertainty. What happens when that uncertainty gets removed? What happens when institutions that have been waiting on the sidelines finally get the green light to integrate XRP into their payment systems? The utility story for XRP has always been strong: cross-border payments, settlement layers, the ability to move value faster and cheaper than traditional banking rails. But utility without regulatory clarity is just potential. Utility with regulatory clarity, that's when things get interesting. So let's bring this all together and talk about what this actually means for anyone holding XRP or considering a position. First, the technical setup is genuinely bullish. The $2.47 support level is holding strong, volume is confirming the breakout, and the $4.80 target isn't some fantasy number. It's based on legitimate technical analysis, using Fibonacci extensions and historical price behavior. Second, the fundamental story has never been stronger. Legal clarity removes the biggest headwind XRP has faced, and the utility narrative for cross-border payments is becoming more relevant every day as the traditional banking system shows its limitations. Third, and this is crucial, the on-chain data supports the price action. When 94% of supply is in profit, it suggests that long-term holders have conviction in their positions. These aren't weak hands that will panic sell at the first sign of volatility. But here's what I want you to really think about, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If XRP does hit $4.80, what comes after that? See, the $4.80 target is based on technical analysis of the current market structure. But if XRP successfully reclaims its position as a major player in the crypto ecosystem, if institutional adoption actually accelerates, if the cross-border payment narrative gains real traction, are we potentially looking at a much bigger story? XRP's all-time high was around $3.84, set back in January 2018 during the peak of the last bull market. We've already surpassed that level. So are we in uncharted territory, or are we just getting started on a move that could redefine XRP's position in the crypto landscape? The risk, of course, is that 94% of holders being in profit creates natural selling pressure. The broader crypto market could face headwinds, macro conditions could change, Bitcoin could stumble, dragging altcoins down with it. But the opportunity? If the legal clarity story plays out, if institutional adoption accelerates, if the technical levels hold, we could be looking at one of the most significant repricing events in crypto history. Look, I can't tell you what to do with your money. What I can tell you is that XRP is setting up for something significant, the fundamentals have never been cleaner, and the technical picture is pointing toward continued upside. Whether that translates to $4.80 or beyond, or faces resistance along the way, that's what makes these markets so fascinating to analyze and so challenging to navigate. What do you think? Are you buying into the XRP story at these levels? Or do you think the move is getting extended? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that like button if this analysis helped clarify the situation for you, and make sure you're subscribed because we're going to be covering every major development in this space. The crypto markets never sleep, and neither do we. This video is for educational and informational purposes only, and should not be construed as financial advice. Cryptocurrency investments are highly volatile and risky. You could lose some or all of your investment. Always do your own research and consult with qualified financial professionals before making any investment decisions. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The creator of this content may hold positions in the cryptocurrencies discussed.